Hello, my friends. Andy Falco Jimenez coming to you live from Yorba Linda, California for Vote, PYL Vote. We're going to be talking about two things, and that is, first, we want to make sure that moving forward here, especially in our area of Placentia Yorba Linda area, which also includes Brea, Fullerton, and Anaheim, is that we are making sure that as we vote, we are looking for those candidates that are more interested in law-abiding citizen reform as opposed to criminal reform, which is a plague throughout our country and in particular here in California. And then we want candidates that lean towards or respect parents' rights, which is equally as important. And they actually go hand in hand. I believe that by the end of this broadcast, I'll be able to make a case that that both are important for their overall health of a community, especially when it comes to crime. That if you have good, issues that parents are searching for or are fighting for in our school districts, that when you put those into play, those issues, which have to do with mostly just sound good education and removing indoctrination, that then we will be able to move through the education system, future citizens that will be able to graduate with the ability to read, write, count, and think, that will either move into a college or university environment, then to for good, but we also have to have good universities and colleges. That's another issue, or go directly into the workforce and gain a skill that will again further the community and allow them to prosper through good hard work, which then reduces the chance that they will go into some type of life of crime. And then we get into the other issues that have to do with enforcing laws. And so I want to first address the issue with what is important, as I know, as a law enforcement officer of 21 years in Anaheim, and continue in the what can I call it? It is not I guess it could be a vocation, I guess. I was struggling to find a name for it because it's a business, but my vocation or my business has continued in law enforcement, that it is in the expert witness area of law, where I am hired to look at how police departments and police officers are conducting their business as law enforcement officers. I investigate a crime or a criminal case, and look at how it was handled by the police department and the law enforcement officers that are involved. And so I look at these issues every day and how they're being used. So I want to bring that expertise or that experience that the legal system has entrusted me in, and hopefully give some guidance on why I think these issues are important. And one of the most important things that, as a police officer through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, that the one thing that was very clear is that the most important thing that was brought to law enforcement was the broken windows theory and all the little things that came out of that. And everyone can find flaw, not everyone, many people can find flaw in broken windows theory, to other issues that came up, whether it was, some people call it profiling, or what other names of issues that come up. Let me look in my notes here that I have. That is, oh my gosh, here, let me find real quick. Zero tolerance policing. stop and frisk are the other ones. These are things that are important and are great policies, but in every case, in just simply doing police work, and if you could say a car stop, it can be done in a wrong fashion, and I've seen it. I'm doing a case right now where I'm looking at a car stop and I'm saying, wow, that was not done very well. As a matter of fact, the officer stepped over the line. But that's why you have people like me who are hired as experts that will look at these things and keep a lid on officers that do the wrong thing. Now, is the officer necessarily trying to be a horrible, evil person when going over the line? And I would argue in some cases, no. I think sometimes the environment that the police department maintains is a reason that some officers can go over the line, because it's encouraged. It's encouraged to be heavy-handed, or it's encouraged to step over the line on occasion if it's for the right reason. In other words, to get drugs off the street. So an officer makes a car stop, he can tell based on his training and experience that the person driving the vehicle is probably a drug trafficker. And at least at the beginning stages of a car stop, may not have a means of getting inside the vehicle to prove that inside is a cache of narcotics. Now, minus a reason or permission to get inside of that vehicle, an officer may create an opportunity, which is wrong. Clearly, it is wrong, but may create an opportunity and then get in the vehicle unlawfully and find narcotics, and now this drug trafficker is going to jail. Now, again, many people, and I've heard the arguments for many people, well, who cares as long as he got the drug traffic off the street? On one level, right, you're looking at it in the sense that, yes, we got a drug traffic off the street. We got the drugs off the street, even though the officer didn't obey what would be considered the constitutional rights of an American citizen or an illegal alien, for that matter. And can we do that? No. And I know, I struggle with this all the time. Well, man, this guy was a really bad guy and he had all these drugs, and of course he needs to go to jail. However, we can't have an officer going over the line. All right. So I want to make sure that that's clear. That is my job. That is what I do for a living, is I look at these cases, and the case that I'm looking at right now, and many of them that I do, that is the determination is, all right, we have a bad guy who is definitely a bad guy. He has narcotics, and he was arrested for this thing. But in my investigation, or in my review of the videos and the police reports and the investigation, I find the officer violated his constitutional rights. And so thereby the evidence must be removed or suppressed, as it's called in legal matters. And it's difficult. It's not easy. But if you use these policies or these methods of fighting crime, which is broken windows theory, profiling on some level, or stop and frisk, or what have you, no zero tolerance policing. If you do them correctly, it is really good, sound policy that every police department should employ. The problem is you have many jurisdictions, city, metropolitan areas in our country where they've decided, well, if one officer crosses the line, then we have to remove the entire policy, or we have to defund the entire police department because one police officer stepped over the line. If that was the case, we must stop all medical services. We must stop all bus driving by professionals. We must stop airline pilots from flying in the air, because you're going to have a fraction of these professionals that will make an error, either on purpose or by accident, and step over the line. That's just a fact of life. And so it is shocking to me that we can criminalize law enforcement and victimize criminals. That's essentially what's happening over the last several years, because a few officers that we have hired in law enforcement are people that should have never been hired in the first place, or over a period of time they became disillusioned and or they become overzealous and have decided that it is okay for them to step over the line and do the things that are unconstitutional or illegal. So I want to bring up here really quickly, what is broken windows theory? In case this is new to you and you don't know what it is, I'm going to use psychology today, as the means of identifying this for you. And it's because they give you pretty good definition of what it is. The broken windows theory states that visible signs of disorder and misbehavior in an environment encourage further disorder and misbehavior. True. Leading to serious crimes. The principle was developed to explain the decay of neighborhoods, but it is often applied to work and educational environments also. So when I come down here, it says the broken windows are a metaphor for any visible sign of disorder in an environment that goes unattended. This may include small crimes, acts of vandalism, drunken or disorderly conduct, etc. Being forced to confront minor problems can heavily influence how people feel about their environment, particularly their sense of safety. So just on that very quick and brief definition, it starts with something very minor. If I go back to my history at Anaheim Police Department, there were many areas in Anaheim that were just nasty, crime-ridden, criminal-infested areas, whether it was the west end of Anaheim or downtown Anaheim and portions of even Anaheim Hills, just a small portion, but there was some areas that the crime was just rampant. The drug use, the drug sales, the prostitution, the car thefts, the domestic violence, assault and batteries, drive-by shootings. Some of those areas, we would call them, one of them, but usually by their street names, which is the Jeffrey Lynn area of Anaheim, which was also right next door to Anaheim. It was, a matter of fact, as you came out of the neighborhood, you saw the backside or the west side of Disneyland, which has now suddenly become a very satanic, nasty place. But that's a whole nother show. We had the Chevy Chase area, which is up by Harbor Boulevard in Romney. If you know where the Carl Karcher Enterprises area, I think they're still there. Carl Karcher's Enterprises, their main office was right in that area. As you go west down Romney from Harbor Boulevard, you would get into what is called the Chevy Chase area. And where else? I mean, you can go to Orangewood area near Hastur. If you go east off of Hastur on Orangewood, you would be into another area that was and then Temple Street, which is in Anaheim Hills over off of La Palma, just east of the 57 freeway. These areas, a lot of crime, a lot of prostitution, a lot of drive-by shootings. And then again, there's other areas. If you go all the way out west, I could tell you many more areas that were out there. So in Chevy Chase, in particular, it was decided that this area was completely out of hand. I've talked about it before that we would be on patrol, we get a call, and we'd turn the corner to go up into the Chevy Chase area, and we'd be confronted with a couch on fire in the street, and then a parked car that is now turned upside down, and then we drive serpentine around those, and we didn't really think anything of it. I remember when an officer, her name was Cheryl, I remember when she was coming onto the street for, I believe she was going there for another call. It could have been for a disturbance or a man causing a disturbance. And as she turned the corner, she saw a man with an axe coming at her above her head. And she got out of her car and had to shoot the man as he was coming at her with an axe. I remember coming out there with, flying in there as we often did with our lights and siren. And you would see two guys running down the street, one of them shooting at the guy as he's, weaving in and out of the apartment complexes there, and so on and so forth. This was just every day. On a weekend, it was incredibly busy. We'd be there often for different things. So this is one of those areas that at one point people just says, okay, have we had enough? and as officers, quite frankly, it was one of our favorite areas to work because we were constantly arresting somebody for something big, like armed robbery, carjacking, murder, you name it. It was happening in that area. And so for a police officer, it was almost like what you would go through the police academy for to live out, your calling to actually fight crime, and you were chasing people over walls and fences, that kind of stuff. But at some point, the neighboring area, they started to say, we've had enough of this, because now it's starting to move out into the area. So how do you solve that? You go into that area, and now you begin to tow vehicles that are out of registration. You begin to mend the windows that are broken and fix it. You begin to incorporate and recruit people that live in the area that want to see change. And you not necessarily deputize them, but in some form you deputize them to be reporters of who it is that we need to target. Who is it that lives in that area that's dealing in narcotics and dealing in weapons and prostitution? Who are these people? What apartments do we need to focus on? And we began to really enforce even the minorest, is that a word? I don't know. The most minor crimes, and essentially using the broken windows theory. And we did call it back in those days, hey, we're using the broken windows theory in this area, Chevy Chase, Temple and Chevy Chase and so on and so forth. And we also incorporated, no pun intended, corporations like Carl Culture Enterprises, who we worked together and teamed together, that they were going to donate money to help refurbish some of these areas. And if I'm not mistaken, they purchased many of the apartments that were in that area. And together, along with broken windows theory and stop and frisk and zero tolerance, all three of those, we were able to clean up that area and turn it into a gated community. And it took a while, but those things work. The good news is, only on occasion did one of our fellow officers step over the line. And I know that this happened, and I want to bring this up because it's important to understand that you will have officers step over the line, because it becomes a little bit addictive. The fact that you're going in there and fighting crime, you're finding bad guys, they're going to jail, they're doing time. And the DA and the city attorneys that are responsible for prosecuting these crimes, they are taking and using 3 strikes you're outlaws and gang enhancements and a whole bunch of other laws that were available to us at the time. And people are serving time. They're not able to get out and come back. So as a team, you have broken windows, you have zero tolerance, you have stop and frisk, you have corporations that are purchasing and evicting those people that are not paying they're not paying their rent on time. They're not parking their cars where they need to be parked. They're not maintaining the area in a condition that does not allow for broken windows, broken doors, broken gates, brown grass, brown trees, and cars parked on the grass. That you incorporate all these things, and in the end, you have city attorneys and district attorneys who are doing their jobs and enforcing the laws as they stand, and using enhancements to keep people in jail, not get people out of jail, but keeping them in jail. And eventually we're able to turn a very dark area of Anaheim into a gated community where families, even though they're low income, even though they are struggling to make ends meet, are able to live in peace. Because it is a fallacy to say that because you have bail requirements, because you have certain financial things that require keep maintaining a property, maintaining a vehicle that runs and works, and making sure that they're registered, even though that's a requirement of living in the state. That is a requirement for living in our community. You can't use that as an excuse for crime, which is happening now. If I bring up this article, and I'm going to bring up an article that has to do with what's happening in Illinois right now, and this is bail reform. In other words, they're making it possible that there's no bail requirement for certain crimes. And I'm going to spell out these crimes, but I want to read with you what it says here in relationship to why they first think that this is wrong. So approximately 400 criminal defendants will be released back into the community. And this is in Winnebago County, which is Winnebago County State Attorney, who's saying, oh, this is the person who's saying it, but it's the entire state. It's the state of Illinois. Anyone sitting in jail right now with all these pending charges, which I'm going to share with you in just a minute, they're going to be let out. And the reason that they give is this. It says that that's just inequitable. Advocates for the abolishment of cash bail view it as a pillar of institutional racism within the criminal justice system. That's just inequitable that some people get to be free because they have money and other people have to remain incarcerated, which has all kinds of terrible consequences of people's ability to work, for their housing. Their whole families suffer, said Ben Ruddle of the ACLU of Illinois, according to the WLS. Instead, a judge would issue pretrial release conditions for offenders, something local pastors have been pushing for, saying the change is necessary to improve the criminal justice system. Which is, I know that if you're watching this, you actually have common sense and you realize that this is hogwash. But I know that there's many people who would rather stick their head in the sand and say they don't want to be political. They don't want to watch shows like mine. They don't want to read the newspaper. They don't want to watch the news. They don't want to be involved in politics. All these things happen to even some of my closest friends, where they say, I don't want to be involved in these things because it upsets me, or it may upset my friend, or it may upset my family member, or my daughter, or my wife, or my what have you. I mean, there's all these excuses, but when you walk out of the door of your home, or even when you turn on the light switch, you are involved in politics. As you go out, or your son or your daughter come to you and say, hey, mom or dad, can I ride my bike to the park? Or can I ride my bike to Starbucks? You will make a decision based on the politics in your community, because you will say, you know what? It's too unsafe to go. Now, how do you know it's unsafe? Well, because probably somebody told you, hey, there was a rape down the street. There's criminals that are running around. There was a drive-by shooting down the street. I caution you, those of you that say, hey, I don't want to bring this up because I'll get fired from my job if I say that I'm against criminal reform or bail reform, because they will call me racist. The problem is saying that you have to reduce bail, or you have to get rid of bail requirements because people are Black, is racist. Because what you're saying is that Black people because Black people commit crimes, and because they commit crimes, you can't require bail. That is so racist. I go back to what I was talking about with the city of Anaheim and the Chevy Chase area as my example, is that the same people that were living in or around that area that were becoming the victims of the criminality were being victimized by people that don't work. Their work is committing crime. Their work is drug sales. Their work is pimping women for prostitution. Their work is the theft or the robbery that's being committed in those communities. It is not racist. It's racist to allow these criminals of all colors, Black, white, Mexican, brown, Asian, yellow, if you want to call them that, all that stuff, right? Is what I mean. They're calling you racist because you're saying all these things that are happening are because of their color, is so not true. We are a community of law-abiding citizens. That is it. There's only one color, and that is law-abiding citizens. There's only one race, and that's law-abiding citizens. By no means is enforcing the law and requiring them to show up for court and being there racist. It clearly is racist to make this claim that they're making again in this article. And I just want to read it again. I want to make sure that this is clear. Is that it's saying that it's just inequitable that some people get to be free because they have money and other people have to remain incarcerated, which has all kinds of terrible consequences of people's ability to work, for their housing. Their whole families suffer. Do you not understand that the people that are being robbed are the people that are working? They can't go to work because somebody stole their car. They can't go to work because they've been shot. They can't have their children go to the store to have fun, to get an ice cream, to enjoy themselves. Their children they have to stay in their home because of the criminals who are not working, Who cares if they can afford it? I don't care. I don't care. If, let's just do this. If you think, and again, judges have this ability often. Now, there are some limitations based on how criminal law is written or statutes are written, that why not give judges the ability to say, hey, this person makes a hell of a lot more money. In which, again, they do this all the time. They revoke bail and say, well, they have to stay in no matter how much money they have. And these things can happen, but it's ridiculous to go the other way. And now you're going to release these people. Now, what is it that's happening here or there in Illinois? Now, it's again, I know that this is called Vote PYL Vote. Placentia Yorba Linda. Why am I bringing this up about Illinois here in California? Because we have the same idiots running our state. As a matter of fact, our idiots may be dumber than their idiots in Illinois. This is happening around us. So when we're voting, and I talk about Vote PYL Vote, that we're talking about the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District in many areas that involve that district, but it also encompasses Fullerton, Anaheim, Brea. But then we have to move out because on the ballot is also going to be assemblymen and congressmen and senators and all those other people that are responsible for not only our state, but our federal government. So when we go to vote, of course, my focus is on local voting, and I want you to take charge of what's happening here locally, because that's where it has to start, as we've learned. But it's going to move out to statewide, to countywide, statewide, and then federally, that you need to understand who it is you're voting for when it comes to these things. So Illinois, just because it's in Illinois doesn't mean that we are immune. As you know, California is one of the worst states on the planet. It's one of the, it essentially is a third world country when it comes to their policies, which I'm going to bring out is one of the last things before we leave here. But I want you to fully understand what is coming your way. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or of the Green Party or whatever party you want to be, that it is important for you to understand exactly what is happening, that the destruction of our state, much like Illinois, is due to bad policy when it comes to criminal matters, when it comes to how it is they're allowing law enforcement to enforce the law, and what city attorneys and district attorneys are doing to follow through with the prosecution of these criminals. Now, I say city attorneys and DAs. If you are wondering why is it I use both, like in Anaheim, the city attorney was more responsible for infractions and misdemeanor or municipality codes within the city of Anaheim and misdemeanors. So that's what the city attorneys handled. And that's where broken windows theory starts, with all the misdemeanors, parked cars, infractions, municipal codes. This is where it all has to start. And so you need the support and you need the city attorney to prosecute the most minor of crimes, not to just go, you know what, it's just a minor crime, not that big of a deal. No, you need to prosecute all the way through. And then you get into the DA, which handles most felonies. The district attorney will handle everything that has to do with robberies and murders and domestic violence when it becomes a felony, molestations and so on. The district attorney is involved in those things. All right, really quick. I want to get to these crimes. So here's what's happening, and this is for real. You would think that this is a Babylon Bee, or we're making it up, or this can't be happening. And no, this is really happening. And California is no different. I know I'm using Illinois right now, but these states, these idiots that are running these states, watch each other and what they're doing. As soon as California does something, many other states do the same thing. As soon as Illinois does something, many other states do something. New York, same thing. This is coming to our doorstep, and this is a statewide issue that is happening. All right, here we go. So in Illinois, part of this bill, the Pretrial Fairness Act, they give these things such crazy names, will do away with bail as many people who are arrested can't afford it, as it says. As of January 1st, 2023, the following are just a few of the crimes that will not require detention while waiting for trial. Will not require detention. This means, of course, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. This means that they commit the crime, they may get caught and arrested, but they don't go to jail and stay. They may go and get processed. They may get fingerprinted and their picture taken, but they go right out. They go right out. So the officer risks his life to arrest these people, which again, they're no longer going to risk their life to arrest these people, because why would they? Why would they do it? This has far further reaching, and it will take me 2 hours to explain all the consequences to this stupidity. But just understand that they can get arrested, but they're going to be released. They don't spend it as long as it takes to get them fingerprinted and photographed and their information. They go out the front door. They may not even make it all the way to the police department. This may happen in the field, and they may not even go to jail. And again, here we go. I know I keep teasing you, but aggravated battery. You get punched in the face, and the guy that punched you in the face doesn't go to jail. Aggravated DUI. Aggravated fleeing and eluding. Okay, so again, this is fleeing and eluding. What is that? And you probably know, it's then when a police officer gets behind a bad guy who is in a stolen vehicle, just committed a murder, just committed a robbery, what have you. You turn on the lights, the guy takes off and he splits. Officers, why would you bother? You don't have to stay in jail. The guy gets to run for free. He gets to take off. This is no longer a crime to essentially. It's a crime, but he doesn't get arrested for it. He doesn't get to stay in jail for it. He doesn't stay in jail for it. He can run. So he can commit. So let's say he commits aggravated battery. The officer spots the vehicle that's been described and the suspect in it. Yep, looks like him. He gets behind him. He turns the light. The guy takes off and runs. The officer pursues him, and somehow the guy maybe crashes or something like that. And he's drunk. Aggravated DUI crash. All those things he does. No, he goes in, gets fingerprinted, and he gets released. All those things. He doesn't get to go to jail. I'm sorry. This is so frustrating. Arson. He sets a building on fire, and people the fire department responds. People jump out of the window. People nearly die. No, you don't go to jail for that and stay. Burglary, drug-induced homicide, intimidation. Somebody intimidates a witness and says, "If you tattle on me, I'm going to kill you." Intimidation no longer There's no bail for that. Kidnapping. Robbery, second-degree murder, you don't have to stay in jail for. Threatening a public official, you don't get to stay. Nearly all drug offenses, all you have to do is claim that you're on drugs, and they'll release you. They've replaced the word bail with pretrial release. It will no longer cost money. That's right, folks. Accused of a violent crime such as arson, battery, kidnapping, and murder will be A-okay to leave and come back to trial later. Oh my gosh. All right. So let me go down here. It says what happens here. It says what happens when they don't come back. But that isn't all. The far-reaching bill imposes all other ridiculous limitations as well. Felony murder would still require suspects to remain incarcerated until their court hearing. And those charged with domestic violence would be held in custody for only 24 to 48 hours. Fudge. Man, I just want to cuss right now. But only if the prosecution proves that the suspect is a danger to the safety of a specific identifiable person or persons, Hanley pointed out. Imagine the defendant who murdered his wife, to whom he no longer poses a threat, being released because of this ridiculous limited legal standard. Judges may no longer issue a warrant when a defendant fails to come to court. Hanley added, instead, an absent defendant must next be served with a court order asking him to appear, and then if he fails to appear a second time before a warrant may be issued. And again, I could go on. Do you not see the nonsense? This is happening in Illinois. On January 1st, 2023, this is going to become the law unless something happens to block it, which is not likely considering the idiots you have there running that state. And again, this is going to happen here in California. It's already happening in many ways. I was a detective in family crimes and sex crimes. And based on how this is written, if you've ever been the victim of domestic violence or a sex crime, one of the biggest fears of the victim of these crimes is that the person is going to get out and come back and hurt them again, or worse, murder them. If they are a survivor of either one of these attacks, aggravated assault, domestic violence, a sex crime of some sort, always, and this is when the victim wants to continue to be a victim. Many victims are so afraid that they don't want to be considered a victim. Does that sound strange? No. Many of you know what I'm talking about, where a wife who does not work, who has a abusive husband, who has assaulted her, punched her in the face, broke her arm, hit her over the head with a pan or a telephone, or some other instrument, realizes after we have taken them to jail, and this isn't, is my role as a law enforcement officer, is that we take them to jail. It is not uncommon for that victim to, over a 6-hour or 12-hour period, they used to call me as a detective and say, you know what, remember my husband that was arrested? He's in your jail now. It was my fault. I actually slipped and fell and hit my head. He didn't hit me. I made the whole story up. You know why she doesn't want to be a victim? Is because she's afraid that when he does get out eventually, that he's going to murder her, or that she's realized that she doesn't work and she's got 5 hungry kids or 2 hungry kids and now can't afford to feed them if he does go to jail. And she becomes a victim of herself. So regardless of all those issues, here in Illinois, what if a person wants to be a victim? It's even more criminal than what I'm talking about with one who doesn't want to be a victim, is that she says, no, I want this guy to be in jail. It doesn't matter how much she wants him to be incarcerated and in jail where she is safe. It doesn't matter that he will get released in 24 to 48 hours, regardless of her wanting to be a victim. And that is what is even a bigger crime, is that these people in Illinois who may or may not have ever been a victim themselves do not care about the victim, do not care about anybody. This is where we are going in this state too, in the state of California. And as we go to the polling place, because none of you are going to mail in your ballots, I hope. None of you are going to trust that you can mail it in and that it will get there and it won't be something bad won't happen to it. You're going to go in and vote personally. Is that you look at the people that you have already looked at and you have decided that based on your investigation and research on the people that are running, that they will not do something like is happening in Illinois. This is super critically important, that you want somebody that understands the broken windows and stop and frisk and zero tolerance. Crime is important, and that's where we need to go. I can give you more examples if you ever wonder if these things are good or not. I'm telling you, they are good. And they have been used effectively. Do you have officers that go over the line? Yes. I promise you that as an expert in this area, that my job of vetting, not vetting, but going through these crimes and making sure that officers also know that they are not to cross the line, that we have a constitution in this country that needs to be followed, that you take those two things and work those things through together, and you will have a much safer community of both. If both the city attorney, district attorney, and law enforcement are doing their job, and the criminal element understands that they will be prosecuted, they will be held and incarcerated, and they will not get out because of the way that the people that we have elected have decided to enforce the law and make sure that victims come first, that law-abiding citizens come first, and not the criminal element. All right. I had one more thing I want to talk about. I'm going to hold that for another show. Spend a lot of time on this one issue, but I think that's important as you go looking at the different candidates that you're going to be voting for. We have a great candidate here in Yorba Linda running for city council. I'm going to bring up, hold on. I want to bring up his website. Sorry. I should have had it up already. Where is it? Stand by. All the links that I'm sharing with you are, except for all the links that I used are in the description. Here he is. Okay. There we have Ryan Bent running for city council. I've talked to him, met him the other day, shook hands, talked to him, looked at what it is that he represents and he's running for. So you're going to want to go to Ryan Bent. His link is in the description. Make sure and check him out. We definitely want to vote him into our city council here in Yorba Linda, so that we can feel confident that we have a somebody, and I know we have probably other people that are on the city council that are doing a good job, but I have the feeling that we have a couple that aren't. So we want to make sure that we begin to look through each one of the candidates we're going to vote in on the future, and what city council members we currently have on the board, and really look at what it is that they represent and what it is they look for. So go to Ryan Bent's website, just click on the link in the description. Again, I'm interviewing one of the city council members. I believe it is this Monday. I originally changed the date because of a conflict, but I'll be interviewing one of the city council members that it's on the city council on Monday. So, all right, my friends, I hope that you go out and check Ryan Bent. I hope you stay tuned for future episodes. Shoot, I wanted also, so sorry. I wanted to tell you about Nex. Now it's NEX GenUSA.com. Nex, NEX GenUSA.com. That's a new network of videos of TV that I'm on. And so I'm broadcasting live on Next Gen right now for the very first time, live on that platform. And I thought that I had their website brought up. Sorry, I'm trying to do way too many things here at the same time. Let's see. I had it up, but now I cannot find it. Of course not. It should have been easy to find, but I will find it next time and make sure that it's available. But it's called Next Gen, NEXGENUSA.com. So go there, broadcasting live on a new video network. And some really great people are going to be on there and hosting shows like I believe Sheriff Arpaio is going to be hosting a show on there, and a number of other professionals. I will make sure and get that list and get the link up so that you guys are available. It may or may not be in the description. I've tried to put it in most of them there, but again, I wasn't able to do it before the show. This was a brand new event that just occurred. All right, my friends, love you guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you, and make sure and share this with anybody you think that think that needs to hear this, which is probably everybody if you live in the Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District area, and make sure they know what's going on in our community. All right, my friends, see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.